Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS video for today, Friday, March 10th. As always, we'll be doing a little bit of recap when it comes to terms of yesterday's picks. We're going to be looking at the injuries in play for tonight's slate overall as well. And then we'll be going over to both DraftKings and FanDuel and talking about my core picks for today. If you're watching live or watching on replay, definitely do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you have any questions during the video, feel free to leave them in the chat if you're listening live. If you're listening on replay, leave them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to note whether those questions are more FanDuel or DraftKings specific, just so I can help you as best and just so I can help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. But without further ado, we'll get started with a recap of yesterday's picks. Hit or miss day yesterday overall. That Nets value was kind of the big thing going into the day. The guys that ended up starting for them only really played like 2 rotations. So if you had some of the Nets bench pieces or their second string bench pieces, let's put it that way, then you probably had a decent day yesterday. We give guys like Patty Mills, Cam Thomas was all right, and then like David Duke was up there, and Day'Ron Sharpe as well, who was pretty popular, to be honest. But with that being said, this was the recap for yesterday. We had Jalen Green at $6,400. Looking for 32 points on. We got to 36.75, so he was the hit. At shooting guard, we had Cam Thomas at $4,600. Looking for 23 points on. Got to 26.5, so he was a hit as well. At small forward, ended up on Chris Middleton yesterday, $7,200. There was no Giannis. Giannis was in the initial core, but he unfortunately got ruled out due to wrist soreness. So, obviously he hurt his wrist before the All-Star break. They're giving him a day off, even though he missed the most recent game as well. But with Chris Middleton looking for 36 points down, only got 29.75, so he was a mess. He only ended up playing 29 minutes this game for 5 for 19 shooting, so just not a very good shooting performance from him overall. He makes a couple extra shots. He would have paid off at his price tag. Then at power forward, we stayed with Harrison Barnes. He kind of moved down from that small forward position, but $5,300, looking for 26, 27 points out. He only got to 16.75 yesterday. He was a miss. Played big minutes, but only 4 for 9 shooting from the field, mainly just scored the ball, no rebounds, assists, steals, blocks like that. I believe 2 rebounds in general. So not a very good overall performance from him overall. And then last but not least, at the center position, we went with Nerlens Noel, which was the wrong side of that Brooklyn center. Did play a couple different lineups, played Noel and some, Sharpe and other ones, but Noel was getting the start. He only played 18 minutes, though, over 3 from the field, and ended up with 15 points. So at $3,300, we were looking for 16, 17 out of him, but not the end of the world there. But Day'Ron Sharpe definitely would have been a little bit better. On the FanDuel side, at the point guard position, initially had Edmund Sumner. Once it was announced that Seth Curry was starting, went to Curry. Both guys kind of flopped in terms of their price point, but Sumner was a little bit better. Seth Curry, $4,200. We were looking for 21 points out of him. Got to 10.4, so he was a mess. He only ended up playing 11 minutes in this game, 1 for 4 from the field, so kind of unfortunate there. At shooting guard, we had Jalen Green, $6,800. Looking for 34 points down, got to 35.6, so he was a hit as well. Small forward went with Cam Thomas, who was $4,700. Looking for 24 points down, got to 38.8, so he was a hit. And then we have Mo Wagner at power forward, $4,400, decent pay down spot there. Looking for 22 points down, we got to 22.7, so he was a hit. And then last but not least was Nerlens Noel at $3,800. Once again, only played 18 minutes, so he got 15.7. He was a miss as well, but kind of that pay down option wasn't the end of the world, but still needed some decent plays across both sites if you were going to cash last night. Unfortunately, the Nets value did not really amount to much yesterday unless you were out there playing Patty Mills. Cam Thomas, once again, was pretty decent. Day'Ron Sharpe was decent with the chalk that he was given as well. But Patty Mills, David Duke were probably the 2 better ones in terms of pay down options yesterday. But, we didn't even know that David Duke was going to be active yesterday too. So that is something to know. But with that being said, we're going to get out of the recap from yesterday. We're going to get over to the injuries and play for tonight's slate. It is a 6-game main slate once again, so pretty small slate overall as I'm bringing this up here. And I'll say before we get started with the injuries, this is going to be a pretty tight slate because most of these teams are relatively healthy at this point in time. So we do have, 2 games starting right at 7 o'clock Eastern time. The Portland Trailblazers are without Justice Winslow. They're without Baji and Ryan Archer-Arachno at this point in time. So Winslow's been out for a while. The two other guys really don't factor in for DFS purposes. And then there is Anthony Simons listed as questionable today. We'll see if he makes his return tonight or not. When I'm looking at it from a DraftKings perspective, at $7,100, he's unplayable. $6,100 on FanDuel, you could take some shots there if he does end up playing, but we have no idea how many minutes he's going to play tonight if he does even end up playing. So they did get Joseph Nurkic back the most recent game. He only played 17 minutes. Don't expect him to play too much tonight, probably around 20 minutes. And then on the Philadelphia 76ers side, they are all the way healthy at this point in time. We'll see if any news changes throughout the day. James Harden did miss their most recent game, though, but probably just more rest than anything else. For the Atlanta Hawks, they are all the way healthy. For the Washington Wizards, they are all the way healthy. So as you'll see here, a lot of things trending as all not that much value at this point in time. I know Darius Garland was just downgraded to questionable earlier today. So we're going to click on him real quick as we get going. It looks like a quad injury for Darius Garland. So if he does not end up playing today, safe to assume that it will be Karis LeVert starting in his place. It could be Howell Neto, it could be Ricky Rubio too, but maybe they start Donovan Mitchell at that point guard position. Gets a little bump up to Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, if Darius Garland misses, you can go to guys like Ricky Rubio. You can go to guys like Karis LeVert a little bit more than you would otherwise. Let's see. Then we move over to Miami. Kyle Lowry still remains out. Kevin Love technically listed as a game time decision, but he played last time out, so not too worried about him. So pretty healthy here once again. The biggest one we have so far is Darius Garland, honestly. They are on the back-to-back, but they rested all their guys yesterday, so no worry about them today. All the way that's Benson, who's out. And then on the Timberwolves side, we got Jalen Noel and Karl Anthony Towns out once again, so no changes there whatsoever. Then we move down to the Denver Nuggets. Zeke Najee's out. Colin Gillespie listed as doubtful. Nothing new here. Victor Kankar is listed as questionable, but he doesn't really matter too much for DFS purposes. So they are essentially all the way healthy once again. And then we have the Spurs, who have without Khem Birch, but Jeremy Sohan, Doug McDermott, and Romeo Langford. All this is probable. So they have the crew all back together here for the Spurs tonight, which is like the first time in it seems like forever. So probably not a lot of value coming from that Spurs team, which has been a point of value at various points during the season. Then the Raptors, Will Barton's questionable, but he doesn't factor into the rotation either way, so we're not worried about him. For Lakers, LeBron James is out, Mo Bamba's out, but they've both been out for a little while now. D'Angelo Russell expected to make his return tonight, and then Anthony Davis listed as probable. So as you see, when we talk about the slate, there's not a lot that could change here and open up a lot of values unless we get other news happening throughout the day. The major one we're probably just going to be watching at this point in time is going to be if Darius Garland plays or not, honestly, because that could open up some potential value. Anthony Simons playing or not will kind of dictate some of the Trailblazers, but they're kind of priced appropriately at this point in time for him being out as well. But with that being said, we're going to get off of the injuries. We're going to move over to DraftKings and talk about the core picks, at least early on for today. So as I kind of mentioned already, it's a very, very tight slate. So keep that in mind. Things can very much change throughout the day, but at point guard, going with Spencer Dinwiddie, $7,300. You're looking for a 37 points out. That's exactly what I have him projected for tonight. Good pace-up spot tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's been playing better as of late. Obviously, he is pretty well rested since he did not play last night as well. At shooting guard, we have Bradley Beal. He has $8,400. You're averaging about 39 fantasy points per game on the season for him overall. Maybe a little bit tougher matchup against Atlanta because he'll see some DeJounte Murray. He'll see some like DeAndre Hunter at times, maybe too as well. But still like the potential assist bump, especially if Monty Morris is not in the starting lineup. Once again, DeLon Wright is there, but Bradley Beal just takes a little bit more than if Morris is there in that ball handling and facilitating role. Do have Bradley Beal down for 41 to 42 points. You're looking for 42 out of him tonight. So pretty fair value at this point in time. At small forward, was looking kind of for a pay down option overall. Unfortunately, ended up on Troy Brown Jr. Not super exciting there. He's $4,400. Looking for 22 points out. I am projected for 22, 23 tonight. He's been playing sizable minutes as late. He's been up over 24 points the last 4 games out. So why not go there today unless we get some other value that opens up and makes him look kind of irrelevant at that point in time. Then at power forward, we have John Collins. He's $4,200, which I believe is the lowest price tag he's been at all season. He might have got to 4,000 one of the other days as well. Hasn't been playing a ton of minutes since they got Sadiq Bey over as well. But, if Bey doesn't go out there, he doesn't shoot well. There's opportunities for Collins still. He's still in that starting lineup. He played a couple of minutes at the center position last game. Going against Washington could be an okay little matchup for him. We're only looking for 21 points down. Currently, I'm projected for about 23, 24 tonight. Has a little bit upside for more, but definitely has some downside of the less with Sadiq Bey in the mix as well. And then last but not least, going to Anthony Davis at that center position, $11,000, looking for 55 points at him. He's averaging 52.5 on the season. Obviously, a ton of those games came with LeBron James as well. Currently, I'm projected for 58, 59 points tonight. Definitely has a ton of upside for more, as we've seen in recent games as well. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here, you'll have $14,700, $4,900 per player. So we're going to have to get creative the rest of the way. There's not a ton of value overall at this point in time. But, if Darius Garland does get rolled out, then we can throw a Karis LeVert in there. We can throw like a Ricky Rubio in there. There's a couple different options that do open up and save us a little bit of money at that point in time as well. But with that being said, I'm going to get away from DraftKings at this point in time. We're going to move over to FanDuel and talk about the core picks over there as well. So bringing that up right now, FanDuel's, if you thought DraftKings was bad, FanDuel's probably even tighter pricing wise at this point in time. So at the point guard position, have Fred VanVleet at $8,400. You're looking for 42 points on him. He's averaging almost 40 on the season so far. Going against the Lakers tonight, so it's a pretty good pace-up spot for him overall. It's one matchup that I think he can take a little bit of advantage of, going against Dennis Schroeder, going against D'Angelo Russell as well. Should be a pretty back-and-forth game as well. Both these teams play pretty reasonably fast as well. Obviously, Lakers are up towards the top. Toronto likes to play kind of quick when they can as well. So should be some good opportunities for him tonight overall. Can't really say too much else about him. Currently, I'm projected for 41 points, but he does have a ton of upside for more as well. Then at shooting guard, going back to Anthony Edwards, obviously didn't work out earlier this week where he got about 40 points, but he's still just too cheap on the FanDuel side where he's $8,800, looking for 44 points out. He's averaging just under 42 on the season. Brooklyn, it's not the easy matchup that it was at least earlier on in the season, but should be a pretty back and forth game overall. Obviously, Minnesota wants to play fast. We'll see if this Brooklyn team wants to keep up the pace as well. And then currently have Anthony Edwards projected for 45 points tonight. Then on the opposite side of that Brooklyn game, we have Cam Johnson. Unfortunately, he did not work out the last time for us. I believe he actually left that game for a little bit too, with like a nose injury or something like that. Don't quote me on that one though, but I know he left momentarily and then he came back in. Didn't have the greatest shooting night in the world, but pace up spot against Minnesota tonight, $5,800. Looking for 29 points down. Currently, I'm projected for 29 to 30 tonight. Then at power forward, this was kind of a tricky spot for me today overall. Obviously, we paid up at a couple other different positions. We're paying up at center because there's 3 good options at center, especially on FanDuel as well. I guess technically it applies to DraftKings too, with Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and Anthony Davis. But power forward went with John Collins once again, $5,100, a little bit more expensive on the FanDuel side. Hoping for a little bit of upside here against the Washington Wizards, but looking for 25, 26 points down. I'm still projected for 23 to 24. Just not a ton of value overall at that power forward spot, especially when we're looking to pay down just a little bit as well. And then last but not least, we have Anthony Davis at 10 or yeah, can't tell. Last but not least, Anthony Davis at $11,500, looking for 57, 58 points out of him. Currently, I'm projected for 59 tonight. Definitely has a ton of upside for more as well. If you want to play like him and Joel Embiid together, I don't mind that whatsoever. Obviously, it's a lot of salary to be out there, and you're probably going to have to pay down at one of those 2 guard spots that I did mention with Fred VanVleet and Anthony Edwards. But it's definitely something you can do, kind of mix and match some pieces. As I mentioned before, there's not a ton of value on this slate. We'll see if anything changes out throughout the day. And if that does change throughout the day, I'll leave it down in the comments below. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here on the FanDuel side, you have $20,400, $5,100 per player. So we're going to have to get pretty creative at that point in time. We're going to have to hope some of these, a little bit lower price guys hit on today's slate overall. There's just not a ton of value out there as we do speak. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have in terms of core picks for today for the NBA DFS slate for both DraftKings and FanDuel. If you guys have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to leave them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. If you're listening live in the live chat and want to throw it in there before I get out of here, feel free to do that as well. Definitely appreciate everyone that is checking out the live stream. Definitely appreciate everybody that is checking out the replay as well. And make sure those questions are listed as FanDuel or DraftKings specific, just so I can best help you as quickly and as efficiently as possible. As always, I'll be listing all the injury updates throughout the day. Not sure how many there'll be there, but definitely could be some news changing throughout the day. And then my starting lineup, or excuse me, then we'll be posting the starting lineups as they come out throughout the night. My updated core about 20 to 30 minutes prior to lock as well. But with that being said, that's really what I have at this point in time for today's live stream, for today's video. As always, do appreciate everybody that did take the time out of their day to tune in and watch it. If you are brand new to my channel, please consider subscribing. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, it's mainly focused on NBA DFS and XFL DFS. Got some NFL draft prospect interviews out there as well. If you're interested in that, definitely be sure to check that out. Learning a little bit more about these football players, their careers, their football journeys, and kind of them outside of the game of football themselves as well. We'll probably be doing a mock draft at some point, whether it's later today or next week as well for the NFL draft. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely be sure to check that out as well. I'll be posting lots of updates for tonight's NBA slate, obviously for tomorrow's XFL slate. So definitely be sure to check that out if that's something you're into as well. Also on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport. Be sure to check out my price picks there. Didn't do any last night, just wasn't that great a slate. I'll be looking at it later today. And if I do have any, they'll probably be out this afternoon as well. So definitely be sure to check those out. But with that being said, that's really all I have for today's video, for today's live stream. Do appreciate everybody that did take the time out of their day to watch this video, watch this live stream. Does definitely mean a lot to me, and I hope that each and every one of you has a great rest of your day.